Alright, welcome to the video. So today we'll be talking about HENG, who is currently featured on the Silver Wolf banner. So without further ado, let's get into it. As always, we will start off with the kit. His skill does wind damage to one enemy, and whenever you crit on the skill, you have a chance to reduce the target's speed by 12% for 2 turns. The damage is of course very nice, but the speed reduction is actually also very important. The reason this is important is because of the ultimate. The ultimate will deal damage to one enemy, and if the enemy is slowed, the damage multiplier will be increased by a certain percentage. So the ultimate will have a very high scaling, especially if the target is slowed, which is why you want to slow the enemy so you are able to dish out more damage. So of course the way you want to use him is by using his skill first to slow the target, and then use your ultimate to do a huge amount of damage. For his talent, whenever he's targeted by an ally's ability, he will gain wind resistance penetration for his next attack. This is of course very good to make him do more damage. A thing to know is that you don't actually have to target him specifically with an ability. So for example, you can use someone like Asta's ult to be able to activate his talent, even though you don't specifically target HENG, but you do technically use an ability on him, so you will activate his talent. This also applies to heals, so Natasha's skill and her ultimate can also trigger this talent. A way to know if you have this talent activated is by this glowing icon, or you can also look at the spear. For his technique, he increases his attack by 40% for 3 turns whenever he enters battle. So if you use HENG as a carry, you definitely do want to use his technique whenever you can. All in all, he's very damage oriented, but his damage potential is locked by some conditions, which actually isn't that hard to achieve if you build the team around him. And I will of course get into that in the team build session. For the Lightcones, any 5-star option is very good on him. In my opinion, I do think In the Night is his best option because of the unconditional crit rate. The crit rate will help him slow the enemy so that you're able to do a lot of damage with your ultimate. Cruising in the Stellar Sea is the best free-to-play option there is, in my opinion. It gives you crit rate, and if you're against an enemy who has 50% or less HP, you will get additional crit rate. That is of course very good because, like I said before, you do want to be able to crit, especially on your skill, to be able to slow the enemy. And Sleep Like the Dead is of course also very good. So if you have any of the 5 stars, you can definitely use those. I do of course also want to mention the 4 stars because they are also very important. Return to Darkness is a Battle Pass Lightcone, which means that you're only able to get it from the Battle Pass. It increases your crit rate unconditionally, and whenever you crit, you have a chance to dispel 1 buff on the target. So this Lightcone can definitely be very good. Only Silence Remains is also pretty decent. It increases your attack unconditionally, which is fine. The crit rate is definitely the thing that you want to aim for, so it can sometimes be annoying if you're against more than 2 enemies. This Lightcone is definitely pretty decent if you're against 2 of your enemies, so you can use this one as well. I do want to mention swordplay, because most of the time you will be attacking the same target, since you do want to use your skill on that target to slow the enemy, and then use your ultimate right after to be able to dish out a lot of damage. Even though you might not get all the stacks up on the passive, I still think this Lightcone is pretty decent. River Flows in Spring is a free Lightcone that you're able to buy in a shop, but also get from the Echo of Wars. In my opinion, this Lightcone isn't really that great, but I would say it's better than all the 3 stars, so if you only have this one as an option, then you can definitely use it if you want to. And last but not least, we have Subscribe for More. It can be alright, but you won't be getting the second part of the passive that often because you do want to use your ultimate whenever you can. But if you have this one built, you can use this one as well. For the 3 stars, I don't recommend using any of them, but if you really have to use one, then arrows can be decent. But that's about it. Now for the traces, I would recommend leveling up his ultimate as a priority, since the ultimate does have very high scalings, especially if the enemy is slowed. After that, you can level up the skill and talent, and if you want to, you can also level up the basic attack. His bonus abilities are pretty decent. Hidden Dragon, whenever your HP is 50% or lower, you will have reduced chance of being attacked by the enemy. Then we have Faster Than Light. Whenever you launch an attack, there's a 50% fixed chance for you to increase your own speed by 20% for 2 turns. This can be very good, especially if you are using the Lightcone In the Night, because the Lightcone does scale very well with the speed increase. But even without that Lightcone, the speed increase is still very nice. Then we have High Gale. Your basic attack will deal 40% more damage against enemies who are slowed. It is of course more damage, but usually you do want to use your skill for more energy regeneration and also for more damage. But of course this can be fine if you need to manage your skill points. If you're using HENG as a main carry, then you should definitely get all his bonus abilities. Let's move on to the relics. The set that you want to use on him is Eagle of the Twilight Line. You can also use a 2-piece Eagle of the Twilight Line and a 2-piece Musketeer of the Wild Weed. Or if you haven't found relics yet, then you can use a 4-piece Musketeer of the Wild Weed. In my opinion, all of those options are fine. For the ornaments, I would recommend Inner Cell Solo. skill, for the crit rate, and for the ultimate damage increase. I do see some use in the Celestial Differentiator. You can also use Space Stealing Station, but I do still think that Inner Soda is the better option. For the main stats, for the body piece, I do recommend going crit, mainly crit rate because you do want to have more consistent chances of slowing the enemy. For the boots, you can go speed or attack. I would recommend speed. For the spear, you go wind damage, and for the rope, you go attack percentage. For the substats, you want crit rate or crit damage, speed, and attack percentage, with crit being the most important. Now for his Eidolons. For his E1, whenever you are attacking an enemy who has 50% or higher HP, your crit rate will be increased by 12%. This will of course give him more damage on his skill, but also increases the chance for him to slow the enemy, so that he can do a lot of damage with his ultimate. His E2 reduces the talent cooldown by 1 turn, this helps out his damage as well. His E3 levels up his skill 2 times and his basic attack 1 time, of course that's more damage. His E4, whenever he uses his ultimate to defeat an enemy, he will immediately take action again. That can be pretty decent and can help you out in some situations to dish out more damage. E5 levels up his ultimate 2 times and his talent 2 times, and then his E6 will make his skill slow for an extra 8%. His Eidolons are definitely an improvement, but in my opinion I have seen better Eidolons on a lot of characters that I've already made a guide on. But of course that shouldn't take anything away from Dan Heng. Now I want to talk about his teams. Dan Heng definitely wants someone who can slow or buff him. The reason you want someone that can slow is because of his ultimate, and the reason you want someone that can buff him is because of his talent. I will go over some characters that I do think will work very well with Dan Heng. The first one is Silverwolf. In my opinion, I do think Silverwolf is great with Dan Heng, but also just great in general. She's able to slow on her buck, but of course it's a very inconsistent slow because whenever you are able to hit the debuff, it's a 1 in 3 chance of it either being an attack decrease, a defense decrease, or a speed decrease. She's also able to defense decrease from her ultimate and her buck, which of course will lead to the whole team doing more damage. She is of course also able to weakness implant, so if you're against a boss who isn't weak to wind, then you're still able to bring out Dan Heng, since she's now able to make the enemy weak to wind. So all in all, I do think Silverwolf is a great option for Dan Heng and just great in general. Next up, I do want to talk about Welt. Welt is able to slow both on his skill and ultimate, and Welt also benefits from the enemy being slowed. So all in all, Welt is also a decent option. Other characters that are able to help out Dan Heng is pretty much any character that are able to trigger his talent. So pretty much any character that are able to use their skill or ultimate on Dan Heng. I would just recommend using any Harmony character, Asta for her ultimate, Tingyun for her skill and ultimate, and Bronya for her skill and ultimate as well. There are of course preservation characters such as March that are able to trigger his talent as well. And of course healers are also able to trigger his talent. An example is Natasha ult and skill. But of course if you want a damage increase, then using a Harmony character is the best choice. If I need to recommend a team, then a general team could be Dan Heng with a healer, then a Harmony character, and then a Nihility character. The healer is of course there to make the team survive. The Harmony character is there to buff Dan Heng up and trigger his talent, and the Nihility character is there to debuff the enemy and slow the enemy as well, so that Dan Heng is able to deal a lot of damage with his ultimate. If you do need a shielder on the team or just want to use a shielder, then you can replace the Nihility character because Dan Heng is already able to slow on his skill. If you want a more specific team, then you can use Dan Heng with Natasha, Tingyun, and Welt. That is of course just an example, and you can of course replace every role with a different character. Overall, Dan Heng is a great free-to-play DPS option if you want to use him or if you don't have other options. In my opinion, the team build is definitely important for his damage output, but I do think it's pretty simple to make him work very well. I will be making a guide on the other 4 stars on the banner as well. Other than that, I hope you found the video helpful. If I missed something or you disagree with something, feel free to leave a comment. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.